your very last friend. And though it may seem that way, there'll be a brighter day, 'cause God has not forgotten you. God has not forgotten you. thirsty, he's my water. I couldn't make it without Jesus. What would I do? When I need someone to talk to, he's always there to listen. With his arms folded around me, he rocks me in his bosom. What would I do without Jesus, the shepherd of my valley? I couldn't make it without Jesus. What would I do? When my tears flow like a river and my burdens are high as a mountain, and the ones that I have counted on have let me down, that's when I go to Jesus. He's the one that I can count on. I couldn't make it without Jesus. What would I do? When I need someone to talk to, he's always there to listen. When his arms fold about me, he rocks me in his bosom. What would I do without Jesus, the shepherd of my valley? I couldn't make it without Jesus. What would I do? When I need someone to talk to, he's always there to listen. When his arms fold about me, he rocks me in his bosom. What would I do without Jesus, the shepherd of my valley? I couldn't make it without Jesus. What would I do?
This is the week of Daniel. Starts here. This is the middle of the week. Here's the end, and then it goes off into the millennium. This is what you see on a lot of trade. The barcode. It was set in motion in 1974. I said the other night in 1972, the first year we went to Norway, a young man handed me a small printout of a label in the back of a shirt, and it had 666. Now you may not be able to read these numbers plumb back there, but here's a 6, here's a 6, and 6, here's a 6. That's what these lines stand for. The 666 is the prefix of the European Common Market. It's like a telephone number. 812 is the prefix of our area. All telephone numbers in this southern area is related to that prefix. You go north of here, it's 317. It's just that simple. The 666 associates you with a certain portion of your commercial trade world. It's now then being used in a small scale. We would ask our president, how come you in leadership are so prone to grasp things in the Bible that you say isn't true, and you set them in motion. Other things you deny. This barcode substance here was not even designed by the Pope. Yet I have all of this information concerning the Pope, the Catholic Church, and the whole 9 yards. That shows you, brothers and sisters, mankind today is at the brink of the end. In fact, this stuff is coming on so fast. If God did not do something to put a check on it, they would enforce this system long before biblical time for it. The Bible is a true book. It is so precise, it'll be utterly impossible for them to put it in full force the way the Scriptures declare it. That's why, brothers and sisters, when you read in the Scriptures here in the 14th chapter, it's the 144,000 Jews that have absolutely been revelated, enlightened, and told what to do. Because as they go to the nations of the world, that's one of the things they warn masses of people. If any man worship the beast, receive his mark, judgment. Now for the man or woman that has thought that this thing called the mark of the beast is only some mystical thing that consists of just belief in the mind. It controls your thoughts or the deeds of your hands. Brother Branham was not the first man that ever spoke that. I read that in a mild form, men back before his hour, 80 years older, thought that much back. That far back, it looked like that. I want to ask you a simple question. Let's put on your commercial world. It'll be here when the middle of the week comes. Take a man that runs a grocery store, hardware store. If this mark is only something that you believe that the Pope is that, and that you just dedicate your thoughts and your deeds of your hands to that, I ask you, you go in to get your weekly groceries. How's that merchant going to tell whether you have or you haven't? If this does not involve a materialistically number or mark, what's he got to go on? There's going to be thousands of people that will arrive at that hour because they're people that God has dealt with. Because out of the mass of people that comes out of our hour that goes in this, some of them, brothers and sisters, are going to find grace in the eyes of God to be kept alive and to pass into the millennium. Now tell me, let's be realistic. Let's don't be like an ostrich, stick our head in the sand. There's going to be a number. It's coming. World leaders are designing it. All the component parts to it is here. There just needs to be something in the world to, we will say, hurry things up. That necessitates the world, in the political sense, to begin to set it in motion. Now then, let's turn to the 13th chapter of Revelation. I'm going to read to you this morning the second beast that John saw coming up out of the earth. When we read this, this is what caused John Hagee and those to say there's going to be two men, one the Antichrist, the other the false prophet. Because they make this second beast the false prophet. The interpretations these men give the Bible is absolutely staggering. It's confusing. If you do not know history, you have no confidence in history, then you can be fed anything. And they go after anything. They'll go along with history up to a certain point. From then on, it's anybody's guess. Now let's read this carefully. There's not one man in this. The one-man deal is the Pope in Rome, the European system. Because that, as brothers and sisters, was what was wounded when the head was wounded on the first beast. There was nothing else hurt. The Reformation was the sword of the Spirit of God. First by Luther, Calvin, Knox, men of that caliber. I realize this, our Messianic Jewish friends may not think that Luther fits the picture, but I beg them, plead with them, with all the kindness that I know how. Just because he was supposed to have hated the Jews, he learned that from the system he came out of. Had he been able to have lived in another era of time, I have my doubts that he would have. But at that time, the Catholic Church despised the Jew, his existence. But God in that hour knew exactly what he was using. The caliber of a man he was after. That did not fear death. So the head that was wounded on the first beast was not the political head of the other horns. It was the old imperial head that had eventually been taken over by the power of the papacy. It was church government that ruled through those harsh, dark hours. They changed laws. They absolutely enforced their own creeds. And no wonder history looks back on that hour of time. They called it the Dark Ages. There was no success or achievement nor an advancement. The Catholic Church would behead any man that thought the world was round and had done so. But then Columbus, he got permission to start on his adventure. God used that man. Yes, he was a Catholic. That's all there was in that hour, 1492. But I will have to say, when he came to this, what was later found to be a new world, a new continent, he saw some things being practiced by the Indians he was in hope that he could change. And I'm not standing here to tell you what all they were, because that's outside of the confines of the message. So now then, when John on the Isle of Patmos in 96 AD, he saw in the Spirit, as he describes the Roman Empire being restored, revived, coming right back out of the same masses of people of the old world as it rose in. That's what you read in the first verses. And the deadly wound was healed. Then he says in the 11th verse, and I beheld another beast, This is not a man. It's a nation of a people. Coming up out of the earth, so it didn't come up out of the sea, which absolutely was symbolic of the masses of the old world, Europe mainly. It goes to show this thing rose from another portion of the planet. So the earth represents a portion of the planet that's disassociated with the sea, with the masses of people and the first beast. But the characteristics of this second beast is important that we get the picture right. And he had two horns like a lamb. That's symbolic of the fact, brothers and sisters, we were founded as a Christian believing nation. That doesn't say that every man or woman that was born here or came here were a Christian. There's always elements of people that's wanting a new freedom. And they like to explore, travel. It's adventurous. Well, we have to accept the fact that hundreds did. But the end objective of this was God was going to found a nation that would fulfill this to the letter. And he spoke as a dragon. That don't mean he did it at first. When we look back, brothers and sisters, at our founding fathers, if they knew today what our political men are doing in changing America, they would turn over in their graves. And I would have to say, if you bring up those men, and they was allowed to interfere into the affairs of America, they would say, every man grab his rifle. It's time to get rid of the oppressor. I don't say these things for politicians to think that I'm advocating of such. But you yourselves are bringing on the end of time right on schedule. Because the things you don't believe in, you are setting it in motion. You're going to cause God to fulfill. Now, if it's not true, go ahead and have your day. You have nothing to worry about from me. But if it is true, your days of gloating, boasting, how you are going to change things for modern man, when God's Word will deny you the fact. So this nation was a Christian nation. It reverenced God in every element of society. God was its main goal. Now when we go into this 12th verse, let's notice a certain word. And he is not a man. It's the devil using the nation. Not at first. But when the nation began to talk like a dragon, that means its whole political system began to change. And Satan began to speak through that political system. And he exercises all the power of the first beast. There never was a time when President George Washington would have given a dime. What happened to the Vatican? All those former presidents that followed him on down. Even when we come to President Abraham Lincoln, what did he say about the Catholic spirit? He said it ought to be driven from our shores. According to the history I've read, in the Revolutionary War, there was only approximately 33,000 Catholics in the whole United States. And that was the 13 colonies. I'm not speaking these words to show hatred toward a Catholic person. I've lived by Catholics all my life, worked with them in the field. I've eaten their homes. They've eaten my home. I find no fault in the natural sense. But it's that religious spirit. And when this Cardinal of New York died here a couple of weeks ago, look at all these politicians trotting off. What a shame. If Jesus Christ was to come and been crucified on the cross again, do you think they would have given one dime to go watch this episode? They know exactly who that character is. And they want to have their part in it. This second beast exercises, acts all the power of the first beast, meaning when the political spirit of America began to change, it could not do anything else other than begin to let the devil come in and use its system. Begin to act just like the first beast. When World War II came to a close, I want to say this morning, had this nation refused to have entered the war, Europe today would be absolutely under the control of a man, maybe not Hitler's successors, but not Hitler himself, but his successors. It took the men of this nation and the technology that God let this nation have. A lot of our modern weapons was invented on the battlefield. Take the bazooka. Just a plain old simple thing made from a stovepipe. I use stovepipe turn as a symbol. It occurred in North Africa. Because when you have, say, a 3.5 or 4-inch mortar shell, you drop it in a little tube. Boom, and it's gone. But some soldiers got the idea. Take a holler pipe, put the same projectile in it, but hook it to an electrical device, not a plunger that ignites it. You get the same results and you get longer range. I have to say, brothers and sisters, there was a lot of things invented right on the fields of battle, designed by troops, as they were faced with the obscurity of wanting to do a job in a better way. But I can't give myself away to that type of talk. But it was through this second beast that Europe was preserved. The Orient was changed. But no sooner was the war ended, out of America came the political philosophy. We must help Europe rebuild. What for? She started it. Let her take care of her own problems. No. This is a global problem. We stuck ourselves in there. We committed ourselves. We kept troops in Europe to guard against that bear of Russia. It was just a scarecrow at the time. From North Africa to Austria to Norway to the London, England, Europe was one solid mass of rubbish. Railroads, bridges, highways blasted to pieces. The infrastructure had to be completely overhauled. When you read this verse, and he exercises all the power of the first beast before him and causes. Now the word cause, what does that mean? And the title of my message is The Beast and the Mark. That word cause is in 3 places down to here. Here is the definition of cause. To bring about an effect, anything that becomes the reason of a certain thing being developed. None of this that we read, the end effect was not the design of any one political man. It's a spirit. How Satan used it. He dreamed out of our coffers, out of your pocketbooks, the millions of dollars that went to Europe to rebuild the infrastructure from one end to the other. We sent technicians over there to help them redesign their factories. And they rebuilt their factories, setting them up on the basis of the assembly line like ours was. Our assembly line system, brothers and sisters, helped our people to produce weapons and stuff on a fast means. So this land beast, so-called, was influential after the war to help rebuild Europe. And he causes the earth and them which dwell therein. Now, what part of the earth did he cause? China? No. Korea? No. The Asiatic nations? No. It's absolutely Western European nations. Because they've all got to become a part of this thing restored. So, brothers and sisters, you cannot anywhere find a speech by any president that was politically written and read on the airways or anything that said, "Now I want all you people of the world to worship this beast." The word worship was never uttered in a political term. It's the effect that it caused. Because the devil knew that by the time this effect is applied, those people will be re-educated to believe only in a materialistic world. God out of the picture. So America, for 50 years, built, sent wealth, resources that redesigned the whole social, domestic picture of Europe itself. And the very minute this age started going over there, what do you hear them talking about? From themselves comes the word, we must band ourselves together. We must get together. The European Common Market was the first thing. Then NATO, the North Atlantic Treaty Organization, was the second thing. Then now, they've got the European currency. All of that binds them nations collectively together. They don't want to operate in a single image anymore. They want to operate as a unit that incorporates many nations of Europe. But it was the effect of what America had done that caused it. And you will not find no political speeches that directed in that fashion. But God knew when he let John see this, is how the devil would use this nation to cause. Your neighbor don't like you. Don't like the kind of flowers you got on the line. He gets a dog. That dog likes to dig. Well, what's a dog in a man's yard doing with eventually the hedge dies? The dog caused it. Now, can you see what the word cause means? There's something other in existence that caused the end of something other to come about. So whether you can accept it or not, for 50 years, America pumped millions of dollars. Foreign aid, the Marshall Aid Plan. Our planes slid behind the Iron Curtain to save Berlin from collapse to the Russians. What were we doing in all that time? We were rebuilding the first beast that had the deadly wound by the sword and did live. Because when it had that wound by the sword, they all became independent. But when this war was over and America did what it did, it bound them together. That the whole world should worship, give themselves their alliance, their cooperation to the functioning of the first system. Because it's going to heal that head, that old pagan government, for a short period of time. Now then, let's watch. This second beast that came up out of the earth, and I say it's America, because there's never been one raised up like it. And he does great wonders. Oh, how they try to read this as the false prophet standing out here, and he's going to bring fire down out of heaven. What an interpretation. Brothers and sisters, there's been snake handlers. There's absolutely been all kinds of sharks that have demonstrated all kinds of satanic powers. I ain't heard of a nation yet crumbling at their feet. And he does great wonders, scientific wonders, so that he maketh fire come down from heaven. And you hear some of these modern Americans say, oh, America ought to be ashamed of herself for dropping the atomic bomb. Let me look you in the eye. My outfit was scheduled. I was in the artillery. They was changing us from tractor drawing 155s to 155s on a tank chases. We were being prepared for the first initial landing. And they estimated there would be thousands of men die. When you get people in America who think so modernistic, I have to say, ship them off. Ship them off. I don't want to be around them because they have no heart. Because I seen the effect of Pearl Harbor. It was over a year and a half before I got there. Hickam Field. Some of the hangars, the roofs were still blown off. And Pearl Harbor itself, the mast of ships sticking out of the water that had been sunk by the Japs. Civilians had absolutely been killed on the streets of Honolulu. Wake up, America! God may send you a bloodbath one of these days. It might wake up your mind to realize all this modernistic philosophy, God hears every word of it. And I sometimes don't think God cares too much for it. God's not a modernist. It's your devil that's the modernist. Yes. First the atomic bomb. Then the hydrogen bomb. Then it wasn't long. We collaborated with France and England. They come right along behind us because we give them the components to build it. And what is it? It's fire out of heaven. The 14th verse. This scientific, modern achievement, technology, begins to create a deceiving effect on them that dwell on the earth by means of those miracles, scientific, which he had power or the capability to do in the sight of the European beast, saying to them that dwell on the earth that they should make an image to the beast. No act of Congress, no president, no senator nor congressman ever said what you Christian people need to do is to organize yourself into a Christian unity. That came out of religious leaders in America. But it goes to show it's the spirit of Satan. How the hour of time has come, he is able to use the mentality to give certain classes of people the vision to do and constitute these things that's written. 1945, in Europe, in the Netherlands, right where boats of early pilgrims left to come to America to bring Christians from Europe, is when they drew up the Constitution of the World Council of Churches. Then it was brought to the States. No, it was not announced in Washington. It was announced from the pulpits of organized denominations. In 1948 at Wheaton, Illinois, when they had one large gathering for this, there is where, from the Rockefeller Foundation, and it tells from different financial sources within America, money was given to this organization, which was on paper, to make it begin to become an active, working, religious system. The image is not some apostate Jew making some kind of an animal and then standing off. Hocus pocus. Come alive. The president, Congress, and the Senate had nothing to do with it. What was behind it? The devil. It's how the devil is using America, her technology, her religious leaders. Don't never think the devil ain't in America today in every facet of life. From the commercial, the political, the religious. We're absolutely going down the drain fast. Now notice, he had power. He had the capability financially to produce in the sight of the beast, saying to them that dwell on the earth that they should make an image to the beast. Notice now, what kind of a beast is this image to made to? Which had the wound by a sword and did live. Well, the wound was in the power of the papacy, church government, over state. So it goes to show the image had to be something other that's connected with religion. That will work with that old system of Catholicism. And brothers and sisters, the Catholic Church and the World Council of Churches, which consists of all of your major denominations, they all belong to the same system now. I got the book. And there was no precedent that did this. It's how the devil, when the people of America become so blinded, misled, duped to any kind of a speech No wonder the devil can use America to set in motion anything he wants to. Yes. To make an image to something that had already been wounded. Come on, you preachers! This was not the act of Congress. It was the act of the devil through pulpits that have absolutely sold themselves out to nothing. I'm not saying these things today, young people. I too one time belonged to the Methodist Church, but thank God he got me out of the thing. If you're not hungry for God, you will never get out of the system. Till one day you find yourselves sold out to the devil and his cause. So the wound by the sword was what the Reformation did, starting in 15 and 20. And it did to the Catholic Church, the power over the state. And when that did, brothers and sisters, the kings of the 10 horns of Europe began to get a freedom. They began to go here and there. And they called that era colonialism. The New World was discovered. Well, some came to the New World. Others went to Asia and different places. Now then, the 15th verse. And he had power. Oh, yes, John Hagee. This false prophet standing out here. He has molded and put together some kind of an image of an animal. And he's going to have satanic power to speak life to that thing. I have to say, you can read too much witchcraft and get that kind of a picture. But when you see a nation that sold itself out to the devil, it's hard for you to visualize that is how the devil is using a nation to fulfill the scripture. And he had power. Power here doesn't mean, brothers and sisters, that it's some kind of a power you feel vibrating through the flesh. It's monetary power. Monetary power. Where does all of these diabolical things of the world today come to? Oh, America, give me of your wealth. Give me of your wealth. And he had power to give life unto the image. So keep in mind, whatever you visualize this image of being, it's got to be something that will work with the Roman Catholic Church in Europe. Nothing else. Now, the end effect of that is that the image of the beast should both speak and cause. Now, cause means eventually, not instantaneously. Eventually, it will cause the end effect of what the devil is after. That's the way you've got to look at it. So the end effect is, it will cause that as many as would not worship the image of the beast should be killed. When will that be? Over here in the last half of Daniel's 70th week. I'm glad the Bible gives us a picture. Because with all of this stuff, the way it is in existence, the component parts of it all we would need is some brainstorm politician suddenly just want to jump ahead and just enforce the whole thing. This thing is going to be so devastating and so shocking. That's why God knew he has to hold it off and will only give it an opportunity to begin to have its effect from here to here. So the power was not supernatural trembling, but it's the monetary means. The 16th verse. And causes. eventually will have produced an effect that will cause both small and great, rich and poor, free and bond to receive a mark in their right hand or in their foreheads. Oh yes, 40 years ago, it was easy to read the scriptures and say, well, that just means you worship the Pope, you accept his system, bingo, you done got it. It's got to go farther than that. Because the Pope is not even designing this thing. It's the only thing is, when it's time right, he has the power from the devil to take it over. That's the way we got to look at it. Notice now, brothers and sisters, he is talking about this nation under the influence of Satan, no longer under God. Causes means somewhere from within this nation there comes the means to set something in motion that will eventually affect and cause the outcome of this thing to be brought about. The word cause did not originate in Europe, the first beast. Think of that. Yet it's there. It's designed here to eventually go in motion there first. That's the way you got to look at it. And that no man, the end result is from this word cause, and that no man might buy or sell, save or except he that had the mark or the name of the beast or the number of his name. There's three things: the mark, the name, or the number. Here is wisdom. Let him that hath understanding count the number of the beast. For it is the number of a man, and his number 666. Yes, prior to 40 years ago, all kinds of philosophers, preachers and things was trying to interpret this, what it could mean and so forth. They could see everybody branded in the palm of their hand or right on their forehead. But now, let me remind you, brothers and sisters, in the 50s, nobody heard much even about a computer. It was not until we reached the 60s that out of the firing rooms of battleships, aircraft carriers, came old obsolete computers. Because they began to update them, modernize them. They were originally invented, brothers and sisters, to navigate on the ocean, to fire guns, to help planes find their target and be on course. I watched a documentary one night. When they began to pull these second-handed computers from ships and things like that and put them out here in the hands of the commercial financial world, banks began to get a hold of them, figure they'd help them out in some of their bookwork. They were the beginning of what you see today in a large scale. No one president had a thing to do with it. Think of it. No president ever designed the computer. No act of Congress ever even said we will appropriate so much money for the construction of such a monastery. It was men like Bill Gates. Tell me how much education he has. I understand he quit school. But he had a brain. He had a brain. And the time had come. God was going to see to it that that brain became active. Now, computers have their good sides, but they also have their bad parts. It's how Satan uses it. So when you read about this beast, are you blaming any one president? Don't do it. You point your finger at the devil. Because he knew when society in America was ready to no longer listen to truth, but to listen to the devil, it would become a society that's, we will say, influenced by materialism, intellectualism. So the nation as a whole became a tool in the hand of Satan to begin to set in motion these things that causes this. From the inventing of the atomic bomb, now the world's in a rat race. They stole our secrets. When we begin to set up assembly lines in Japan to produce some of our salt computerware stuff over there, it was no time, brothers and sisters. Them little bitty minds was figuring out this and figuring out that, and it wasn't long until they went down the street 5 blocks away, set up their own little shops, and out here they come with their patent of software. But they've never produced a Bill Gates. Answer if you know it. It had to come from America. Right or wrong? Who's got the software today? The Microsoft. Who did it? And why is our government crying, let's split it in two? One lone man. And then you tell me everybody needs to go to college. My foot. You need to have a brain and know how to use it. And know what to use it for. And then be careful when you do, because the government will want to move in and take it away from you. They ain't smart enough to do it themselves, but they wait till some poor little inconstituent down the line somewheres, and then they want to tear up his playhouse. But now then, as the inventions have been sold to Europe, traded to Europe and to Asia, they're all coming up with their copies of software, trying to run competition. That's how you have to read this chapter. And don't read it any else. It's not one Satan-possessed man born of a prostitute like I've read. But God only knows we got a nation today. They've sold themselves out to a devil. What a shame. Now then, let me read to you why I'm against all the schools. And don't get up and walk out now. I didn't write the article. But I wish I could look at the man that did. Yes, Rosie O'Donnell, she made us big speech one day. Boy, all these TV celebrities, I'm telling you, they think they're smart cookies. Well, the writer of this article is P.J. O'Rourke. Here's what he says. For America to do, we can start by advocating a few basic positions that almost all Americans can be expected to support. Restrict the import of dangerous and flimsy foreign religions, such as the Sun Myung Moon Church. Well, I've said a long time ago, they ought never let that kind of stuff come on our soil. See, they have to come here to get their money to live and exist on. But now that he points the finger at you and me, ban small, inexpensive religions, so-called Sunday morning specials. We're having a special this morning. practiced by the more obscure televangelists, and I'm not one of them, and people with Confederate flag bumper stickers. What's a Confederate flag got to do with religion? Who go to church in cinder block buildings, and we're sitting in one. Ain't that a shame? He's a writer. And I have to say, he knows what the government is doing. It's all right to go to one of these great big cathedrals that's 150 years old, stained glass windows, all kinds of images of saints and this and that, like the Catholic Church or the Lutheran Church. Yes, we want something well established that's proved they're not going to cause us any problem. Enforce existing laws, especially those that keep our children safe from making schools and other public institutions faith-free zones. Don't harp God. No religion. You don't need a God. And that's exactly why you got a generation today don't believe in nothing. No, they can't learn a thing about morals and our principles at schools, but then they can watch these hell-bent TV shows of terrorism, how to kill people, all kinds of terroristic things. Don't tell me that 12, 13, 15-year-old boy ain't watching this. He ain't got no God guiding him, so it's a thrill to him. So I'll take my gun that Dad's got. If that teacher says something smart to me, I'll go blow his brains out. I'll do just like I seen it done on the movie. Don't tell me they're not learning it. They've got to learn it from something they see. Yes, I think you heard about the guy in Wendy's restaurant. This is the day you get mad over anything. But there's a lot of them can't control their temper. They want to give vent to it. And I have to say, that boy that shot his teacher didn't learn that by going to church. Well, what's he writing about it for like that? It'd been better off if that boy could have read the 10 Commandments, thou shalt not kill. He says, of course, this is such a simple beginning. We need a national system of accountability requiring all spiritual dogmas to be registered with the government, lest they fall into the wrong hands the way Christianity did with Jim Bakker and Tammy Faye. Some elements of this, listen to this now, some elements of this program are already in place under the Internal Revenue Service. Non-profit rules for church organizations. Think of it. But the IRS only concerns itself with the money that churchgoers give. They want it. And they have a ways to twist the fact to make you out a liar and then penalize you under a criminal code and take every dollar you got. What about the credits that people give to their religions? I have to say, it's right on schedule. I enjoy what I believe. I do. If it weren't for the grace of God that opened my eyes one day, brothers and sisters, I'd be out there floating around and drifting as driftwood on the sea of life. Yes. What about the credits that people give to the religion? Shouldn't this be investigated too? Yes, I believe, Clinton, in the second coming of Christ. And I believe you're young enough. And you've already given the gays and the lesbians to have equal right with me. No, I'm not hating them. But you yourself have set machinery in motion that's going to bring the coming of Christ. And Mr. Clinton, Mr. President, there's no true Christian that believes like me that's going to usher in the coming of the Lord. The Lord's going to do it himself by his own means, in his own time, and he's coming right on schedule. When all of you that believe like you do, Mr. President, have sealed your souls away into doom, then the Lord is coming. And when he splits the heavens, and you have to see there is a God out there, and there's a spirit world you can't see now, and neither can you touch it with a 10-foot pole. You might look at some of us and have to shake your head. You're right. Listen to what it says. We also need a nationwide 7-day waiting period for prayer. Well, what's he going to do if the house is on fire? Wait 7 days? That ain't going to help. 3 hours, it's already on the ground. This would give people time to cool off. Cooling off, I'll have to say, is concerning mad people, not Christians. People that want to pray and not wait 7 days is usually people that's got a need. This would give people time to cool off and reconsider reverence and supplication, and maybe call their local social service provider instead. I need that character as bad as I need a rat in my house. Now, maybe my language isn't proper, but I hope you understand what I mean. Listen to this. All religious believers should be licensed. I'm already licensed by God. To make sure that they are competent to hold opinions and viewpoints, and that they don't believe in just any old things. Listen, such as creativism. That they don't believe in just any old things such as creationism. I do. Perhaps existing state motor vehicle departments could be expanded to provide vision, exams, and written tests, and multicultural awareness, so that intolerance issues such as these between, and it goes back to the biblical confrontation between Moses and Pharaoh. In our new world of modern science, we don't want no showdown between Moses and Pharaoh. Well, there's one just ahead. And I can't wait till it starts. Now, that brings me to say this. According to all this data, the mark, the number, the name, all of that is here in fragmented elements. All it takes is just the right political brains to get together and say, let's set it all in motion now and let's enforce it. Yes, they could do it way back here before the week starts. What would happen, brothers and sisters, if people was immediately begin to be enforced to accept this thing and the week hasn't even started? It would sure cause you to wonder, well, was the Bible really right when it said that? Brothers and sisters, here is the thing that I have to say. And here's the thing that's going to hold it off. And that's, brothers and sisters, let the war break out in the Middle East. And I have to say, we're closer to it than the world is ready for it. I have not heard one of these preachers say that there's going to be such a thing. They're saying it like this, and some of this comes from their websites. They're saying because this mark is here, that we're right at the threshold of the rapture. Now, brothers and sisters, that's just how much they're out of time with the Bible. I have to say, brothers and sisters, because I'm looking at scriptures that's got to be fulfilled by God doing something in the Middle East that is a miraculous display of His power and His omnipotency. When you read that 7th chapter of Micah, you know good and well what it's talking about. Yes, as it was in the days when I brought you out of Egypt. Well, that was when Moses and Pharaoh had their contest. Look what God did to Pharaoh's army. So again will I show unto him great and marvelous things. In the Middle East, God's going to do it. Why does He have to do it? And I have to say, if these preachers hear this, I'm not trying to debase you, but wake up, men. You got scriptures that you never even touch. What does it mean when it says in Isaiah 60? And kings. Well, we don't have kings today, but we have presidents and prime ministers. So I'll read it like this. And prime ministers and presidents will bring your sons and daughters upon their shoulders. Where to? The land of Israel. They will nurse them. That hasn't happened yet. But I have to say, when the world is forced and compelled, all of a sudden, to watch the hand of God in the Middle East turn this war loose and begins to shake the whole element of human society. He'll shake religions that's never been shook before. Because the end result is, for a short period of time, God wants to open the eyes of a few mortal people. Some of them will be politicians. It's the fact that He will open a few politicians' eyes is what staves this off. And more or less just pushes it ahead on through this part of the week till we reach here. So that by the time, brothers and sisters, it has been adopted, it's because back here the components are already available, could go in motion any time, but it's God who stays the thing. Think of it, brothers and sisters, when they say also, oh, this could go into effect any time. Well, who's going to warn the world? They're sure not doing it. So that's why, brothers and sisters, when we see in the 14th chapter of Revelation, the 144,000 breaking and going to the nations of the world to warn, and especially about the mark and so forth, that's the last time an element of human society will know a thing about. Don't accept it. Now then, this morning, let me explain something other here. Here is the barcode. There's your mark. They can put that on a little bitty computer chip and put it on your skin or in your hand. All through this bunch of stuff that I've got here, it tells you what already is by the medical society, by the scientific world, by your financial structures, every facet of human existence. You go to the license bureau to get your license, your driver's license renewed. They ask you, do you want to donate any of your organs in case you're killed in an accident, don't you? Now then, the medical world is wanting to adopt the philosophy that if you donate certain organs of your body to be donated for being retransplanted into other human beings, they want to mark that person by putting a microchip. What's it for? So if you should get killed on a lonely highway and nobody gets there real soon, that microchip echoes a signal. It's picked up on satellite. It's all right in here. There's a human laying out there somewhere. Hurry, hurry, hurry. We need the heart, we need the kidneys, we need this, and we need that. We got to save these lives. But to the dogs with him. And he might be laying there just being able to breathe once in a while, and his heart beating once in a while. I have to say the medical world can think a lot of strange ways, especially when you get these power-crazed scientists manipulating and ruling the system. Now then, right here it is. There's 666. That's just the way the barcode appears on a lot of your products manufactured in Europe. A few years ago, I had an article sent to me that was cut out of a paper, and I don't even know where it was at now. But there was a ship coming through the Suez Canal. This ship has to be inspected as to its cargo, its product, who from, where to, and so forth. There was a box. Here is 666-666 is the frequency numbers of the European common market. And it won't never be changed. It's already being used because it identifies all the commerce with that European common market. Does that make sense to anybody? Yes. Now up above there is the other numbers. They can be there, and again, they don't have to be. How many go into Walmart today? Practically everything you pick up. It may not even have the price on it, like 97 cents. But in that barcode, when they pass that laser light over it, it tells them 97 cents. Then if they put it out on sale, then they have to write over that and write it in your numbers. So brothers and sisters, it's absolutely. This is the end result of what eventually every human being would be forced to accept. All because we've had credit cards for years, but now we have what we call smart cards. That's just the same as cash. You walk into the grocery store, every day you see people using it at Walmart. You insert that smart card in there, it automatically can just deduct that value from your bank account. Now it even states in here, but since many times smart cards are lost and they are picked up by people that know good and well how to manipulate it, get around all the legal sides of it, this is what constitutes all the fraud, counterfeiting. So they're working on the idea that from the smart card, all that information will be put on a computer chip, a microchip. It'll have the mark and everything else that associates you with that whole system of commerce, even all your health benefits. Even our president, as he'd been harping, this nationwide health care thing, it tells right in here what he has in mind. All newborn babies will have a microchip put in their skin. And that way, if that baby is kidnapped, they know exactly by what that computer chip is radiating. Over and over and over again. Criminals, forgery, counterfeiting is literally driving the financiers' science of finance to do this very thing. It's the last resort. And I have to say, thank God. God knows how to keep such a thing at bay until the right time. But when that right time comes, brothers and sisters, when you have a society like America is today, materialism is all I'm after. Money. They will care less what involves a mark, a number, or anything else. Just let me be able to get what I want when I want it and the way I want it. So, brothers and sisters, it's 5 after 12. I think I've said enough today. But if you doubt me, there's enough of material here, it ought to scare people into reality of thinking. This thing is breathing right down your neck. There's only one thing that holds it off. It's not the fact that it's not here, it's here. It's just here in fragmented ways. Every nation in Europe today is putting microchips under the skin. Spain, Netherlands, in Britain. It's not every individual, but more and more as they go to this whole so-called cashless society, they're all passing up the sharp card or the smart card, and they're going to this. Never even realizing they're putting in motion the very beginning of something that will doom them for the last days. Heavenly Father, I pray this morning, take what's been said, Lord, and use it. We want to thank you, Lord, for this day. Be with my brothers and sisters, Lord. Direct our pathway and help us through the day, Lord, to live, to walk, and to do the things that's pleasing to you. In the precious name of Jesus Christ we pray. Amen. May the Lord bless all of you, brothers and sisters.